The poem I Sit and Look Out by Walt Whitman talks of the miseries and atrocities of life that rose to surface in the wake of capitalism. The advent of capitalism had a huge impact on the lives of people, and human concerns and emotions during this time were sidelined. The speaker is an onlooker who watches everything but does nothing to change the sad situation of human life. The poem describes a dark, sad, corrupted, sorrowful world after the World War II. It is largely about the different kinds of social evils like injustice, humiliation, sufferings, exploitation of the poor, and oppression of the weak that existed in the society. The tone of the poem is pessimistic, and the imagery that is presented in this poem is apocalyptic. The poet silently sees the sorrows of the people suffering from oppression, ill treatment, and humiliation. He is able to hear the involuntary and uncontrollable sobs of the youth, frustrated and stifled with the disillusionment of the World War. He is full of regret and remorse for his own misdeeds. The speaker visualizes the mother of a poor family being taken advantage of and being ill treated by her children. She is distressed, dying in loneliness, desperate for help and affection, but in her this time of need, she is completely ignored. The image of neglect and oppression of women is further seen in the abuse at the hands of the men, as the speaker next sees the wife being ill treated, misused, and cheated by her husband. The husband is shown as a callous lover who seduces young women and deceives them. He is also shown as a treacherous person. The poet further sees the feelings of jealousy, bitterness, and anger of unrequited love in the rejected lovers, which they try to hide and bear alone. He further shows how moral depravity and cruelty prevail in the society that we live in. He describes the dangerous aftermaths of war, how it claims a number of innocent lives and makes young men prisoners of war, the deaths of millions, and the autocracy that causes dents within the state. The poet further presents a gruesome imagery where sailors on ships that have lost their way cast lots to decide whom among them should be killed due to the acute shortage of food supplies. He sees the poor workers and the oppressed who have been subjected to slavery at the hands of the capitalist world, where nothing prevails but oppression and penury. He portrays the insults and low treatment meted out to the weak and the poor. Just as a helpless observer, the poet sees all the sufferings, agonies of the world, and all he does is make a comment. The poem is a criticism of life as observed by the poet in a detached manner. He catalogues this collective collapse of humanity piled one upon the other. He does not analyze nor does he make any comment on these sides and leaves it on to the reader to react and judge. He himself does not get involved or pass a moral value to be learnt or followed. Instead, he allows his reader to think and react in their own way. In this way, he opens a window for everyone to see. The poem is a severe criticism of the oppression of human beings perpetrated by their own fellow human beings. The poet sees sorrows, oppression, shame, anguish, callous neglect of the elderly people, ill treatment meted out to women, pestilence, tyranny, exploitation of workers, and internal agony. He looks at this sad spectacle of life and remains silent. He says, all these, all the meanness and agony without end, I sit look out upon, see, hear, and am silent. The poet neither tries to find out the reasons for the sufferings of humanity, nor does he offer any remedy to improve the sufferings of the poor workers. But he does criticize the oppression of human beings by their fellow beings. The title of the poem gives an indication of what message it is trying to convey. Whitman is telling us not only that all these miseries are always going to be around us, but that it is our natural tendency to be silent. We see and know that other people are behaving badly and that this causes pain. However, unless it directly affects us, we will probably not intervene. It is not enough to witness the horror, suffering, and pains of the world. Every person who can do something needs to do something about it. The poet is trying to tell us that it is wrong to simply observe the sufferings. He is attempting to make us impatient with the speaker who sits, sees, and does nothing.